Welcome to the Female Church Leaders Podcast, a weekly resource for women who love God, love the church, and are called to lead. I'm your host, Kadi Cole, church leader, author, and executive coach. After more than 30 years in full-time ministry, often as the only woman at the table, I understand how meaningful yet challenging your calling can be. That's why I created this podcast, to remind you that you're not leading alone. Each week, I'll share practical tools, biblical insights, and honest encouragement for the real challenges female leaders face in ministry, so you can grow your skills, strengthen your faith, and lead with more confidence and joy without burning out or striving to prove yourself. We drop a new episode every Monday because Sunday is coming and you are going to be ready for it. Welcome to the second installment of our Leading Moms series. A few times a year, I like to focus specifically on the unique challenges of women who are leading and are also moms. Last episode was about transitioning into summer when kids are suddenly out of school. But this one is for the other end of that transition, when school starts back up at the exact same time our ministry year kicks into high gear. These episodes are designed to help you lead and support the moms on your team well, but also to equip those of you who are navigating leadership and motherhood yourselves. And this particular episode leans a little more in that direction because I want to give you some practical strategies that actually helped me navigate the new school year as both a mom and a high-level ministry leader. I learned some of my best lessons actually about navigating this season almost 20 years ago. I had worked part-time when my son was really little, but unexpected life circumstances required me to go back to work full-time. And it took me a while to get my head around what that meant for me and especially how to do motherhood well while working full-time. And at the end of my first full year, I had a soon-to-be kindergartner, and I got invited to attend the Gifted to Lead conference that was held by Nancy Beach and Nancy Oberg, who are two of the OG female church leaders. Now, this program, Gifted to Lead, was named after Nancy Beach's book, Gifted to Lead, The Art of Leading as a Woman in Church, which I highly recommend. And it was held the day before the Global Leadership Summit in Chicago. So there were some really incredible people in attendance. And that day felt amazing. It was inspiring. I was so encouraged by their teachings. But the lessons that stayed with me the longest actually came from the women who I happened to sit with at my lunch table. Now, I was in my early 30s at this time. I was already overwhelmed from my first year of working full time, and my son was about to start full-day kindergarten, which felt like it changed all of the rules on me. And I served on the executive team at my job. So I had ministries up and running. I had a whole bunch of initiatives that were kicking off that fall that I was responsible for. And the funny thing is I felt very capable. I felt really full of faith that God had called me to do this and he would see me through it. I just couldn't quite see how it was all going to work together. How was it going to work out for me, for my ministry, my family, and especially my little guy at the same time? Because he was also not at all excited about starting school. I did not have one of those kids. So at this luncheon, I found myself sitting with a variety of sharp, successful women. One of them I remember was a realtor who owned her own brokerage. Another was a school principal and had been in full-time work her entire life and motherhood. And we had several others of them like them at the table. And so after we kind of got through the beginning of our salads, I kind of looked around and said, so my son is about to start full-day school in a couple weeks, and I'm kind of new to all of this working motherhood. What advice do you have for me? And I felt a little silly asking it because it seemed like I should know how to do this. But instead, they all turned toward me and leaned into the conversation. And one by one, they went around the table and gave me advice that set me up for the next 20 years. I'm honestly not sure how I would have navigated raising my son, caring for a husband with chronic illness, and increasingly higher levels of ministry leadership without these key 4 strategies that I learned that day. And I've been recommending them to leading moms ever since. So I wanted to share them with you as well. Strategy number 1, the school calendar is a big rock and it goes in first. Now, you've probably heard that time management illustration about putting the big rocks into the jar first. If not, you should go look it up on YouTube. It's really helpful. But the idea is that if you try to fill up a jar, you want to fill it with rocks and sand and everything. If you start with the sand and the small rocks, there's no room left for the big rocks later, the things that matter most. So we put the big rocks in the jar first, then we add the small stones, the sand, and then you can even fill it up with water, and it all fits in around them. That's how you get everything to fit into something that has closed parameters. It's all about priorities and the order in which you put them in. The school calendar is a big rock. It needs to go into your planning and your personal calendar first. So figure out from the school calendar which random days your kids have off and decide what you're going to do about them now. Teacher planning days and federal holidays are actually not surprises. You can find out now when they're scheduled. They're already on the calendar. I often scheduled those as much as I could as actually my personal days off, so I could be home with my son and get to do all the play dates and fun, normal outings that I couldn't be a part of the rest of the year. Now, other times you might need grandparents or childcare or extra support. Now is the time to get those dates in your calendar early and not have to figure out those things in last-minute hustling. Now, a little side note, if you lead at your church, and particularly if you lead in Next Gen or children's ministry, those days actually become incredible opportunities to serve the families of your staff or even your community. Think of it like a VBS one-day experience for those random days when every working parent in your community is trying to figure out what to do with their kids. Now, I want you to do that same thing on vacations and holidays from the school calendar. Those things matter just as much too. When I oversaw campuses, I remember there was one Christmas, I attended 32 Christmas Eve services around the county in 4 days. There was absolutely no way I was going to show up fully for Christmas Eve or Christmas Day with my extended family and even like them at the end of our festivities. So as a family, because I knew I was going to work every Christmas, we shifted our big extended family traditions to Thanksgiving. Ethan would get out of school, we'd spend the week in Montana with my parents, my siblings, and all the cousins would come in for the long Thanksgiving weekend. And then Christmas became pajamas at home with just me and Ethan and his dad. I also tried to take Ethan's spring break off of work, and I would put that vacation request in during August when the school calendar was out. Because guess what? When you're the first person to request off for spring break, you have a lot greater chance of it getting approved and working around other people's calendars. So get out the school calendar now and decide which days matter most to your families and get those big rocks scheduled in first so that you know you have the time and you know they're taken care of as the school year goes on. Now, if you lead parents, initiate these conversations with your team now. Start them early. Ask each team member what matters most to your family, what matters most to you as an employee, and how can we as a team help everyone to plan and navigate the year with greater equity for each other, but also greater impact for your family. Not all families want to celebrate Thanksgiving in the same way. I had lots of peers who actually had family in town for Christmas, and they loved doing all of the Christmas service and kind of collapsing on their mom's couch. I didn't have family close by, and so we had a different kind of priority. Everyone on your team has a different thing that's a win to their family, and if you assess that early, you have a really good chance of giving every family what they need in this school year. Okay, strategy number 2, ask your kids what's most important to them. When you work, especially when you work full-time or if you have a lot of volunteer high-level responsibility, there is absolutely no way that you're going to be able to attend every luncheon, every recital, every practice, every game, every Muffins with Mom, and everything else, especially for every single one of your kids. But you can make the things that are most important to each of your kids. So ask them at the beginning of the school year. And by the way, we need to keep an open mind about their answer. I have coached so many women to do this, and often they are shocked by what their child actually chooses because it rarely lines up perfectly with what their mom assumed would matter most. So, for example, maybe you're an athlete who loved sports growing up, and you would happily attend and prioritize your kid's practice, every game, but only to discover your kid actually wants you to be at the spring orchestra concert and maybe to also chaperone the field trip to the zoo. That is a true story, by the way. That mom rearranged her schedule around what mattered most to her kids instead of what she enjoyed doing most as their mom. Those were two different things, and it made such a difference to her girls. Now, if you are someone who loves it being every game, by all means, prioritize that all you want. But know that you are doing that for yourself as something you love to do as a mom, not because it's something that makes a difference to your kid. Those preferences for you are the sand. The big rocks that go in first are the ones that matter most to your kids. Servant parents, like servant leaders, bend towards the priorities of the people they're serving, not their own picture of what a great parent or what a great leader should look like. Strategy number 3, rethink outsourcing for this school year. Now, I'm a big believer in outsourcing what you can to balance all the demands of leading in a mom's life. But every new year deserves a reassessment. Your kids are a year older. They probably have a different schedule than they did last year. But most importantly, they have new levels of responsibility that they can carry that they weren't ready for last year. When Ethan was young, I did all the laundry. I didn't mind laundry. It's actually kind of easy to multitask. It could justify myself folding laundry in front of a good television show. So I never really considered giving it to anybody else. But in the 3rd grade, Ethan asked if he could do his own laundry so he could, quote, feel like a grown-up. Well, I couldn't believe it, but I also didn't want to miss the opportunity. So I showed him how to do his laundry, and he has been doing his laundry every Sunday night ever since. But it did make me realize that I could easily keep doing things that he is capable of doing himself. Like, I could have easily kept doing his laundry all of his life, all the way into college, and he never got used to doing it, fitting it into the rhythm of his week, or experiencing the consequences of not quite getting it to it. So that changed how I thought about responsibilities in our home. One year, we stopped all of our lawn service, and Ethan's job that year was to take care of the lawn. Another year, we canceled our monthly house cleaner, which was a pretty big sacrifice for me because I love having my house cleaned once a month. But he learned how to scrub toilets and mopped floors for the entire year. One year, we didn't outsource cooking, which is what I call eating out, and I attempted to teach him how to cook. Let me tell you, we were all glad when that year was over. Now, most of us can't afford to pay someone to do everything we wish we could outsource. But as the demands on my leadership increased, we usually outsourced 1 or 2 things each year based on what my capacity was, what each of us actually wanted to contribute to our home, and most importantly, what was developmentally appropriate for Ethan to learn. That equation changes as your family changes and as your kids grow. So take time to reassess it every year. And by the way, as your leadership changes every year, you may need to outsource things differently every year. So what's your capacity for this year? What do you want to outsource that's going to free up your time to be the mom and the leader you know you are called to be? And strategy number 4, transition your expectations from summer mode to the school year mode. Give yourself permission and even a challenge to re-engage with the ministry year mindset and pace. Summer may have been busy, and if you lead in kids, youth, or missions, it may have been even busier than the school year is for you. But it is a different rhythm. Fall brings ministry kickoffs. Your leaders return from sabbatical or travel or study breaks. Families in your church come out of vacation mode. The focus, pace, and energy of your life needs to change with the seasons, and that is a really good thing. But if you don't intentionally reset yourself for that change, it is easy to blaze straight through from one season to the next without ever acknowledging the transition. So I recommend as much as possible that if you are a working mom, especially a full-time working mom, take off the first day of school. For me, it created space to celebrate summer, experience the transition, and acknowledge the emotions of watching my kid grow up, which always seems to happen way too fast, right in front of my very eyes. I mean, I remember distinctly how little Ethan looked walking into kindergarten, but then how big he seemed when he was a 3rd grade safety patrol on the first day of school, and then how little again as a 6th grader starting middle school, but how big he was as an 8th grader welcoming in all the little kids, and then how tiny he was as a freshman going on the high school bus for the first time with all those giant senior football players. Every transition felt huge to me as a mom. So taking that day gave me space to enjoy the morning with him, be fully present as he stepped into a new season, and then process it by myself, all before picking him up and hearing about every detail of his new year. It also kept me from missing a motherhood moment because I was too busy to take the time to notice and experience it. Now, if you're someone who doesn't spend much time resting, taking care of yourself, or being quiet, please resist the urge to fill that space. Don't automatically turn it into a brunch with friends or another opportunity to minister to someone else. Let yourself experience this season of motherhood that you're leaving and the one you're entering in with yourself and with the Lord. Drink in the moment of all He is doing in your present with His presence. Don't be busying yourself away from the emotions of motherhood. They have a way of coming back to collect with interest from your body and your soul. Now, these 4 shifts can change the way you enter this season and the way you help other women enter it too. So whether you're a mom navigating this season yourself, a leader supporting moms on your team, or someone who is intentionally shaping the culture of church, especially for working moms, look for a way to encourage proactive planning, let kids prioritize and inform your availability, redistribute responsibilities as your family changes, and intentionally reset for the new season. You don't have to do all of this perfectly, but you can enter a new ministry and school year with greater clarity about what matters most and how you're going to make room for it. Now, there's another reason I believe these strategies matter so much. Scripture says in 1 Timothy 2:15, she will be saved through childbearing if she continues in faith and love and holiness with self-control. Now, that verse confused me for a long time, I got to admit. And I know many people have different views on the meaning of that verse, so I don't want to get into all that. But I do want to share with you that God used that verse powerfully in my own life to help me recognize something I had been missing. He wants to use my motherhood as part of his transforming and sanctifying work in me. It's kind of like how we work out our salvation. I began to experience that more deeply when I resisted the urge to rush through these motherhood moments and allowed the experience of raising a child to reveal things in me, mature me, and draw me closer to God, our heavenly parent. I watched women become so focused, sometimes managing the demands of motherhood, that they miss some of the spiritual formation God wants to accomplish in them through it. So as a mom, embrace the inner sanctifying journey of motherhood. Mary even talks about hiding the deep moments of her motherhood into her heart, the ones that no one else could really understand or see. As a leader, support and encourage that work amongst the leading moms on your team. Motherhood is not in competition with our ministry calling. It is actually another calling in alignment with it. Looking back, God even used the boundaries of my work responsibilities to keep me from over-parenting my son, which I was, to be honest, was in a prime position to accidentally do. I mean, I'm a leader. I like to fix things. I like to lead things. I like to prevent problems, especially for people I love. So what seemed like job limitations to my motherhood at the time actually required me to choose the places, spaces, and moments in Ethan's life where I most needed to show up and be the best mom I could. And when my availability ran out, he learned how to turn to God and to other people. Now I can see as a young adult that over his lifetime, that has served him far better than having me available for every little thing on my own. And that's one of the gifts of embracing all of our callings together. We don't have to choose between growing as mothers and growing as leaders. We actually get to grow as people, and God covers both of those callings at the same time. If today's episode resonated with you and you're trying to grow your leadership while also balancing callings like motherhood and other responsibilities God has entrusted to you, knowing where to focus your development really matters. And so we have a new resource out that is designed just for that goal. It's called the Competency Gap Quiz. And in just 2 minutes, it will help you identify the top leadership gap that many female church leaders are missing so you can concentrate your efforts and move your leadership forward efficiently and effectively. You'll find the link to the quiz in our show notes and as well as in our weekly Monday email. Now, if you're not getting our weekly email yet, you get announcements and resources every Monday morning. You can sign up at femalechurchleaders.com. Thank you for the faithful ways you serve God, your family, and the church. Please know that we believe in you and all of your callings, especially those that help raise up the next generations of faith leaders. And remember, we are here to cheer you on every step of the way. I'm so glad we got to spend this time together on the Female Church Leaders Podcast. I hope you're walking away encouraged, equipped, and reminded that your calling truly matters. To keep growing, join us for our next Closing the Leadership Gap cohort at closingtheleadershipgap.com. It's a guided coaching experience, including live Q&A with me, designed to accelerate your leadership journey. If this podcast has been helpful to you, would you please take a moment to follow, rate, and share it? Your engagement helps the algorithms suggest our resources to female church leaders we haven't had a chance to meet yet. And don't forget to follow at Female Church Leaders on Instagram for encouragement and leadership tools designed just for you. You can also follow my personal feed at Kadi Cole, spelled Kadicole. Keep leading faithfully, keep growing your leadership gifts, and I'll see you next Monday because Sunday is coming and you are going to be ready for it.